Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking through a couple player props I like on Prizepicks for tonight's NBA slate on Friday, April the 5th. We've got a big slate tonight, big Friday night slate, 12 games, so a lot of props to choose from. I got 3 early picks that I want to share with you guys that I like for tonight. We're going to talk through these 3 plays and share why I like them. Before we do get started though, as always, if you guys do enjoy these Prizepicks videos, and if they do help you out, make sure you hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button if you have not yet, and if you guys are new to Prizepicks, be sure to sign up, use that promo code NOAH when you sign up for Prizepicks, and you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. And we do also have a partnership with Sleeper. You guys can check out Sleeper, linked down below in the description, or again, just use that promo code NOAH when you sign up for Sleeper, and you'll get your first deposit matched up to $500. Now, if you don't know what Sleeper is, they are a DFS pick'em app similar to Prizepicks, where you pick over or under on player projections. You build out an entry. You can make up to an 8-pick entry on Sleeper. You can win up to 100x your money. So if you guys don't have an account over there, again, sign up. Use that promo code NOAH. You'll get your first deposit matched up to $500 over on Sleeper. But let's talk through the picks I like for Friday, guys. I do want to recap our 2 plays from Thursday's video before we talk through today's plays. So Thursday, pretty rough day. We gave out 2 picks Thursday, only went 1 and 2, so we missed on our 2-pick entry. We did hit James Harden over 29.5 PRA, but unfortunately, Clint Capella over 30.5 fantasy score did not come through for us. Capella played like 28, 29 minutes, and if you would have told me before the game started that Capella was going to play, 29 minutes, I would have felt very good about him going over 30.5 fantasy score, but he just didn't have that great of a game. He had 5 turnovers as well, which kind of killed him. I think I looked through his game log. That's the most turnovers he's had in a game this season, 5 turnovers. If he doesn't have those 5 turnovers, he would have went over his fantasy score, because I think he had 25.6 fantasy points. You take away those 5 turnovers, and then that puts him at 30.6, which would have barely put him over. But yeah, that was kind of a frustrating one to lose. I felt really good about that Capella play. The minutes were there. He just wasn't that productive. But more times than not, when he gets 28, 29 minutes, he goes over 30.5 fantasy score. Just didn't happen last night, unfortunately. But we got 3 more picks for Friday, guys. So let's bounce back. Let's talk through the picks I'm liking for Friday. So all 3 of the picks I like for tonight are going to be fantasy score props. If you're new to Prizepicks, if you don't know how fantasy score works, it's just a fantasy point system. You can click scoring chart right here. You can see how fantasy points are calculated. You get a point for every point. You get 1.2 points for every rebound, 1.5 points for every assist. Blocks and steals are worth 3 points each, and then for turnovers, you do lose a point. If you, for some reason, don't play on Prizepicks and you can't take fantasy scores, I don't mind taking these picks, taking the PRA instead of fantasy score for these players that we'll talk about. But specifically, I do like some fantasy scores for tonight. So let's talk through the picks I'm liking. First prop we're going to take a look at that I like is going to be Chet Holmgren, 38 fantasy score. And I like the over here for Chet. Now, if you look at Chet's last 5 games, it's all red, which you're probably thinking, Noah, why do you like the over here? Well, let's talk about it. So the big news for OKC tonight, there's no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's already been ruled out. And Jalen Williams, J-Dub, that is doubtful. So the Thunder are pretty much going to be without their top usage players, J-Dub and Shai. And with J-Dub and Shai off the floor this season, Chet does get a pretty nice boost. He has averaged 1.28 fantasy points per minute with those guys off the floor. And one of the reasons I like fantasy score for Chet is because Chet is a guy that does have blocks and steals upside. We've seen Chet have games this season where he's been able to rack up, 5-6 blocks. I mean, he's had games like that this season. He had 2 blocks against Philadelphia in a recent game. He had 3 blocks against Houston. Like, he's got that blocks and steals upside, which obviously for fantasy score, every block and steal is huge because they're worth 3 points each. And really, if you look at Chet's recent games, and obviously he's been struggling, but a lot of these games he just hasn't really played full minutes. Like this game against Houston, he only played 18 minutes. I think he got injured in that game, or maybe he got ejected. No, he fouled out. That's right. He fouled out in 18 minutes against Houston. The game against Phoenix was a blowout. He played 28 minutes. The game against New York, I think he was in foul trouble, played 26 minutes. The game against Philadelphia was I think it was another game he might have been in some foul trouble, played 29 minutes. He had 4 fouls in those 29 minutes. And then last game against Boston was a blowout. He only played 27 minutes. So he's been losing minutes lately, either due to blowout or foul trouble. We obviously can't expect Chet to just get in foul trouble every game. We can't expect every game to be a blowout. tonight's game against the Pacers should be competitive. The spread right now is 5.5, so this is projected to be a competitive game. It's a really good matchup. The Pacers have been vulnerable to opposing centers this season. The Pacers also play at a really fast pace. They've not been that great defensively. This should be a fast-paced, high-scoring game. It has a 235.5 total. So in a really good matchup like this, in a fast-paced game, given the minutes have been down on Chet lately, I like those minutes to go back up tonight in what should be a competitive game. And obviously, assuming he stays out of foul trouble, Chet should play 30-plus minutes here. And if you look at what he's done this season, when he's played 30-plus minutes, he's gone over this fantasy score line more times than not. And actually, 9 out of his last 12 games playing at least 30 minutes, he's gone over this fantasy score line. And you got to think, pretty much all those games were with SGA and with J-Dub. Now J-Dub and SGA are both out, which should mean Chet should be even more productive than normal. They can run the offense more through Chet. So I like this over 38 fantasy score here. I think this line should be like 40. I think 38 is a couple points too low. Now, I do want to say that I was looking at Chet's PRA line. That line is at 30.5. I looked at Chet this season. When he's gone over 30.5 PRA, he's gone over fantasy score as well in every single game except one. So there was only one game this season where Chet had 31 PRA but did not get 38 fantasy score, and it was against Brooklyn on December 31st. He had 18 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, so he had 31 PRA. In that game, though, he finished with 37.5 fantasy score. So he came up 0.5 short of his fantasy score in that game. But every other game this season where he's gone over PRA, he's also gone over fantasy score. So that's why I like fantasy score more for Chet. You could take PRA if you can't do fantasy score, but I really want to take the fantasy score here just because I think Chet, again, does offer that blocks and steals upside, which is huge for fantasy score. And I like this play quite a bit. So that's going to be our first prop for tonight. Chet Holmgren, more than 38 fantasy score. Next prop I like that we're going to take a look at is going to be Miles McBride, 26 fantasy score. Like the over here as well for Miles McBride. So Miles McBride been playing massive minutes lately as a starter. He's gone over this fantasy score line in 3 out of his last 5 games. The games he went under didn't go under by much. He went under by just a point or two against San Antonio. Had 24.9 fantasy points. Last night was a struggle for McBride. Only had 20.3 fantasy points. He did shoot the ball very poorly last night, 4 for 13 from the field. But there's some positive takeaways, and one of the positive takeaways is that Miles McBride is just playing massive minutes as a starter. He has played now at least 40 minutes, and I think, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 straight games he has started, he has played at least 40 minutes. So we can pretty comfortably project McBride for 40, 41, 42 minutes here. And if you look at what he's done this season when he's played 40-plus minutes, I mean, he's gone over this fantasy score line in most of those games. I think there was only a couple of games this season where he's played 40-plus minutes and did not get 26 fantasy score. One of those games was against Sacramento last night, played 43 minutes, only had 20.3 fantasy points. But again, he shot the ball really poorly last night, 4 for 13 from the field, 3 for 10 from 3. He did play 44 minutes against Denver, had 25.1 fantasy points, shot 4 for 9 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3 in that game. And then against San Antonio, played 46 minutes, had 24.9 fantasy points, shot 3 for 9 from the field. In that game, 1 for 4 from 3. So a lot of the games where he's gone under this fantasy score as a starter have been just kind of from poor shooting. Well, this is a matchup where McBride should get plenty of open looks because if you look at where the Bulls have struggled this season, the Bulls have been one of the worst, if not the worst, catch and shoot defense this season. They give up the most catch and shoot frequency allowed, which is why you see so for example, guys like Klay Thompson, if you look at what Klay Thompson has done against the Bulls, he's had some huge games, and that's because the Bulls really struggle against guys who can catch and shoot, who can get up quick threes. And the Bulls have been giving up a lot of threes this season. Miles McBride, he's become more of a off-ball scorer. He's become more of a three-point shooter, playing alongside Jalen Brunson. Now, when Jalen Brunson's off the floor, McBride will handle the ball, and he'll kind of play as a point guard. But when Jalen Brunson's on the floor, Miles McBride kind of plays more as a off-ball scorer, as a shooting guard, technically. And this is a matchup that should set up really well for him, just given how much the Bulls have struggled against catch-and-shoot players this season, giving up catch-and-shoot shots. They also give up a lot of three-point attempts, which is where Miles McBride has been taking a lot of his shots lately. If you look at his recent games, last game against Sacramento, he took 10 threes. He took 8 threes against Miami. He took 10 threes against OKC. So he's been getting up a lot of three-point attempts. And the Bulls, like I said, one of the worst 3-point defenses this season. So really like this matchup for McBride. We know the minutes are going to be there, and typically when he plays 40-plus minutes, I like his chances of getting more than 26 fantasy points. So that's our second play for tonight. And then third and final play I like, we're going to look at Naz Reid's fantasy score. We cashed an under on Naz Reid the other day. Well, we're taking an over on him today. More than 31.5 fantasy score I do like for Naz Reid tonight. And let's talk through why I like this prop. So Naz Reid has been starting lately in place of Karl-Anthony Towns, and I assume, I think Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be out for the rest of the regular season. So we should see Naz Reid, in the starting lineup for the rest of the regular season. And when Naz Reid has started this season, he's been relatively productive. He's gone over this fantasy score line in 6 out of the 10 games he has started this season. And if you look at the games where he went under, two of the games he went under, he played only 17 minutes and 26 minutes. Now, he did play 31 minutes against the Bulls and only had 29.6 fantasy points that game here. That was a recent game. And then he did play 33 minutes against Denver and had 22.2 fantasy points. So he did go under these 2 games, playing over 30 minutes. But typically when we get over 30 minutes from Naz Reid, we can bet on him putting up more than 31.5 fantasy points. Naz Reid has been a productive player this season. With Karl-Anthony Towns off the floor, he's averaged over a fantasy point per minute. And if you look at the minutes lately for Naz Reid, last game against the Raptors was a huge blowout, so he only played 26 minutes. But the game against Houston, he played 34 minutes. Against Chicago, he played 30.5 minutes. He played 33 minutes against Denver. Against Detroit, played 31 minutes. So he's been playing 30-plus minutes pretty consistently. And this season, when Naz Reid has played 30 minutes or more, there have been 11 games total where he's played 30 minutes or more. He's over this fantasy score line in 9 out of 11 games playing 30 minutes or more this season. So at 31.5 fantasy score, I do like the over here for Naz Reid. The matchup against the Suns, I don't think it's the greatest matchup. I don't think it's the worst matchup either. Really what we're banking on is the minutes for Naz Reid, which have consistently been there lately. And when he's played 30-plus minutes this season, he's been able to put up more than 31.5 fantasy points, more times than not. And if you look at what he's done without Karl-Anthony Towns this season, I think he's gone over this fantasy score line. And a lot of the games he's played without Cat as well. Some of the games he went under kind of were due to some poor shooting, like this game against Chicago where he went under. He shot 5 for 14 from the field. This game against Denver where he went under, he shot 2 for 12 from the field. Typically, we don't expect Naz Reid to shoot the ball that poorly. I mean, he's typically been a relatively efficient shooter, and he is a guy that can kind of score from all around. He can shoot threes. He can score around the rim. He also rebounds relatively well. He can get stocks, too, kind of similar to Chet Holmgren. Naz Reid's also a guy that can get those steals and blocks, and for fantasy score, those are worth 3 points each. They really, they add up, and they're super valuable. So give me more than 31.5 fantasy score for Naz Reid as our third and final play for tonight, guys. So these are 3 picks I'm liking over on Prizepicks for tonight. Chet Holmgren, more than 38 fantasy score. Miles McBride, more than 26 fantasy score. And Naz Reid, more than 31.5 fantasy score. If you guys are going to tell me on these 3 picks, let's hopefully bounce back tonight, hit all 3 of these plays. As always, I do appreciate you guys supporting these Prizepicks videos and the content that I put out on YouTube. If you guys do enjoy these videos, just hit that like button down below. I do appreciate it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, if you don't have an account over on Prizepicks, sign up, linked down below in the description, or just use that promo code NOAH. When you do sign up for Prizepicks, get your first deposit matched up to $100. But that's all that I got for tonight, guys. Good luck on this slate. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.